Alexander the Great, the man who conquered the world. Introduction. Few figures in history have achieved what Alexander the Great did in his short yet extraordinary life. A warrior king, a tactical genius, and a leader whose name still echoes through time. Alexander conquered vast lands, from Greece to Egypt, Persia, and even India, creating one of the largest empires in history. But who was he beyond the battlefield? What drove him to push the limits of the known world? And why, despite his success, did his empire crumble so soon after his death? Today, we dive deep into the rise, conquest, and untimely fall of one of history's greatest military minds. The early years. A prince destined for greatness. Alexander was born in 356 BCE in Pella, the capital of Macedonia. His father, King Philip II, was a brilliant military strategist who turned Macedonia into a dominant power. His mother, Queen Olympias, was fiercely ambitious and made sure her son believed he was destined for greatness. She even claimed he was the son of Zeus himself. But perhaps the biggest influence on young Alexander was his tutor, Aristotle, the legendary Greek philosopher. Under Aristotle, Alexander studied philosophy, politics, science, and the art of war. He developed a love for Homer's Iliad, idolizing the mythical warrior Achilles, whom he sought to emulate. From an early age, Alexander displayed extraordinary courage and intelligence. A famous story tells how, as a teenager, he tamed a wild horse named Bucephalus, a horse no one else could control. This horse would later carry him through many battles, becoming as legendary as Alexander himself. Alexander becomes king. At the age of 20, Alexander's world changed forever. His father, Philip II, was assassinated in 336 BCE, and young Alexander was crowned king of Macedonia. It didn't take long for challengers to rise. Many Greek city-states, including Thebes and Athens, saw Philip's death as a chance to rebel. But Alexander acted swiftly. He crushed Thebes so brutally that he burned the city to the ground, sparing only its temples and the home of the poet Pindar. This sent a clear message. Macedonia's rule was not to be challenged. The Persian conquests. Taking on an empire, with Greece under control, Alexander set his sights on his father's ultimate goal, conquering the Persian Empire, the largest and most powerful empire of the time. In 334 BCE, Alexander crossed the Hellespont into Asia with around 40,000 soldiers. His first battle came at the Granicus River, where he defeated the Persians and declared himself the liberator of Asia Minor. But his true test came a year later at the Battle of Issus, 333 BCE, where he faced King Darius III himself. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander's tactical genius won the day, and Darius fled the battlefield, leaving his family behind. Instead of harming them, Alexander treated them with respect, earning a reputation for honor and chivalry. The fall of Persia and the legend grows. By 331 BCE, Alexander had marched deep into Persia. His most decisive victory came at the Battle of Gaugamela, where his superior tactics shattered the Persian army, forcing Darius to flee once again. This time, Darius was later betrayed and killed by his own men. Alexander marched into Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, the heart of the Persian Empire. In a dramatic moment, he burned Persepolis to the ground, a symbolic act of revenge for the Persian burning of Athens over a century earlier. Now, Alexander was king of Persia, but he didn't stop there. He adopted Persian customs, married a Persian princess Roxana, and encouraged his men to do the same, blending Greek and Persian cultures. The march to India, the final campaign. Not satisfied with ruling Persia, Alexander pushed further eastward into India in 326 BCE. There, he faced King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes. This was one of the toughest battles of his career. Porus's war elephants and fierce resistance almost broke the Macedonian lines. But once again, Alexander emerged victorious. Despite the win, his army had reached its limit. After 11 years of continuous conquests, his men, exhausted and longing for home, refused to march further. Alexander had no choice but to turn back. The death of a conqueror. In 323 BC, at the age of 32, Alexander arrived in Babylon, where he began planning his next campaign to conquer Arabia. But before he could act, he fell mysteriously ill. After days of fever, he died on June 10th, 323 BCE. The cause of his death remains a mystery. Was it malaria, typhoid, poisoning, or exhaustion from years of war? His final words are said to have been, "To the strongest." With no clear heir, his empire soon fell apart, divided among his generals, known as the Diadochi. The legacy of Alexander the Great. Although Alexander's empire collapsed, his influence never faded. His conquest spread Greek culture, language, and ideas across the known world, leading to the Hellenistic era, a period of cultural fusion that shaped history for centuries. Even today, military leaders study his tactics, historians analyze his ambitions, and his name remains synonymous with greatness. Was he a visionary hero or a ruthless conqueror? That's for you to decide. Conclusion: Alexander the Great, a warrior, a king, a legend. In just 12 years, he changed the world forever. What do you think? Was Alexander the greatest leader in history? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more epic historical stories.